Hello there, and welcome again to the Impact Zone podcast. We are here again to talk more TNA wrestling shenanigans. And today I had a thought. Should TNA do something similar to what WWE is doing with WWE ID or WWE Let's Frickin' Go, pretty much? Or just something akin to that kind of program. And I think scouting and whatnot, that sort of thing, is incredibly important. I do think that obviously they have to have scouts for talent. Um, and I'm sure that a lot of the I know Tommy Dreamer's involved in the product. I know Gail Kim's involved in the product, but um, and maybe Raven and a few other people, and I think Sammy Callahan's kind of involved in some way, and there's a few other people that are kind of involved. Um, so one of the things about keeping your eye on up and coming talent, I'm sure Sammy has his eye on, or ear to the ground in some regards, because he runs his own indie wrestling promotion. So I feel like, having had that out there, he gets a lot of guys from the Ohio area, rather, whatever. I'm sure some of the talent that's on the roster as well is especially some people like Trey Miguel. I know he's trained a few people and whatnot. Though it's funny, he's still a younger star, sort of the business, in many ways. And I think training never really ends at a certain point. To some degree, you're always learning. I feel like if you're not learning something in this business, or you're not keeping yourself to the highest level in some way, you really need to be going, okay, how can I be the best? How can I be the best? You start looking at the wrestling scene, especially where you are and what company you're in. If I'm in TNA right now, I'm seeing that Joe Hendry is the top guy right now. So my aspirations to be at the top, as far as being a babyface, they're not really going to go anywhere. So maybe I can be one of the upper card, or middle upper card baby faces, sure, but for now at least. But if I'm thinking, maybe thinking long term, there is a lot better, because yes, eventually we have that perspective of saying, well, nothing lasts forever, type thing. Certainly we think that Joe Hendry will be leaving at some point. So we've got to keep that in mind and think that, well, somebody else is going to get their opportunity at some point. I think Santana's probably one of the people that's on my short list of people that probably will win the title. I kind of feel like Macklin is going to win it at some point too. Again, I don't know. I thought for so long that Sammy Callahan was going to get back to the title picture and win the title at some point as well, but it didn't really happen. Maybe he still will in the future, but I think he's sort of he's realizing the the style of wrestling that he's been doing has taken a huge toll on his body, and is trying to slow down, I think, in some ways. Which, hey, that's fair enough. If you thinking about this again as it's a prize fighting, affair in some ways, and that you're not gonna do this every weekend, or well, not every weekend, but whatever. You're not gonna do the hardcore matches every single day of the week. you're going to do it, maybe once a month or whatever it is, and just have some more quote unquote regular matches that you can rest your body on and get more out of your career in. So that's fair enough. But yes, so the ultimate question would become, because again, like a lot of people, like that's why I was saying Sammy has this job and so does Gail Kim. I know she doesn't wrestle anymore, but whatever. There's a few other people that are kind of there that Eddie Edwards and a few other people that have been there for a while and have that sort of locker room leader sort of status, and whatnot. You could start thinking about Moose in that position as well, because he's been there for a long time, and it feels like, and he's even said that he's not gonna go anywhere really. But the truth is in the pudding, so to speak. But again, we'll wait and see. But again, currently at least, but yeah, like we've got to look at that perspective and say, okay, well, who out of these people is going to take their time to, not just retire or whatever, but like start going, okay, well, I'm going to take another role, wear another hat. I don't know how many hats these guys are wearing. Like some of them might be wearing more hats than what I know about, but again, like it really is a job, and we would love to have Christopher Daniels over here, dude. Like, and I think like if Chris was over here in TNA, I don't know. I think he'd be better off, honestly, in so many ways. But that it's up to him, And Frankie Kazarian, I think, and Eric Young, those guys are guys that are, they're on their last run, pretty much. They're on one of their like last years in the business, probably. And both of them are sort of slowing down and trying to get the most out of their like last few years or whatever it is. Same with AJ. Like I know he's not in the company, but he said that he's going to retire. Well, actually, I think he said he was going to retire at the end of last year. But he sort of got injured, and I think like he still wants that one last big time WrestleMania match, or that last big time thing to sort of cap his career off. And that could happen in TNA. I think all of us would love to have it happen in TNA. I know that he said he wants to like be in WWE and be like a scout or whatever else it is. But hey, like TNA, they should just like try to do the same thing. They should try to bring somebody in like that to say, hey, let's make this guy our scout, and let's like not just let's make somebody a scout and let's make somebody do this, make somebody do that. Let's freaking film it. Like, let's make more content. Like, I don't know whether you make it a digital exclusive. Like, you used to have, like, Walking Weapons Retro Review. You used to have a whole lot of other shows that were, like, kind of on there as well that kind of have gone away and whatnot. So you start looking at, well, and, like, again, we've just learned that Hammerstone has his contract elapsed, which is very sad in some ways, because he really didn't get a good shake of like doing very much there. And I think that he could have been in a good position if he had have been able to come back after that injury. He would have probably fitted well into a main event scene slot there against Joe Hendry or against Santana as well. Like, he would be there to do some stuff, and he'd probably have to put both of them over, or at least Joe Hendry over, at least, whatever. But yeah, like, still, he'd have some good programs to go into. And I think that they should reapproach him and say, hey, what are you doing? Like, maybe you want to go to WWE. We don't know. But hey, can you come in for a few weeks, a few months, or whatever it is, and just like help us get out the rest of our guys to feel more legit and feel like, oh yes, they've got something to sink their teeth into for a few months or whatever it is. Even if he was just there till Rebellion, like if he started a feud with Hendry now and led that up to Rebellion and then walked away or whatever it was or just whatever and then went to WWE, hey, it's not that much skin off your back, like to say that, like or whatever it is, I don't know. But again, I do hope for that. That's a talent that is on that scene. And again, like you've got to keep your eye on the quote unquote free agency, but I think literally anyone that's in the indies or on the indies, whatever you want to say, is fair game as far as a talent that you could sign to your company. Unless they're signed with AEW, signed with WWE, or technically signed with WWE, like on WWE ID or whatever, or on something like that. Or they're from, like, signed with New Japan, though I don't know if New Japan actually, like, technically signs people. I think, like, exclusively signs people per se. I think that they have a very open door policy. I think TNA has a very open door policy in some ways, especially now with the WWE partnership. Like they had the New Japan partnership, they had the AEW partnership. Like I think TNA is very much like they know, or well, they feel like, hey, this is our position, and we need to do the best as what we can to make the money that we need to make. But hey, we're probably not going to challenge AEW that hard, realistically, but, or definitely not WWE. But if we try to, like, make our own, puddle, so to speak, in the wrestling business, which the company kind of previously made in the wrestling business. And it's crazy because, like, besides New Japan and besides AAA and CMML, like, it is the oldest company that's still in existence. And besides Ring of Honor, I guess, as well. But, now Ring of Honor is not really Ring of Honor. It's AEW Ring of Honor or whatever. But much like WWE, ECW or whatever. But still, I don't know, dudes. Anyway, I do feel like they should have some sort of program, even if they're not going to broadcast it, but I do think that broadcasting it would be a good thing because it's just more content. Again, I don't know whether you make it its own show. I don't know, but like you could have that be part of Explosion as well. Like, people going out to find some of this new young talent or getting to know some of this new young talent. That's sort of what I feel like that show should be. A lot of the people that, hey, we just don't have enough time for all these things. Again, that's the thing. Stop, like, I really don't love to, like, and again, I love to see some of these old retro matches, but most of them, like 99% of them, are on the TNA app as it is anyway. So instead of showing us, like, I don't know, 15 minutes worth of, an old match that anyone can go and watch anyway, just maybe, I don't know, to put up the highlights or just say, this week's featured match or retro featured match is, AJ Styles versus whoever, or whatever it is, versus whoever, and from Genesis, whatever, blah, 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 or from whatever pay-per-view, or from whatever episode of TNA, we suggest this, quick promo. And that's what it should be. Like I keep saying these little things about Explosion because that's the only other, like, show that TNA has. It's not the quote-unquote B show, though it is kind of quote-unquote the B show. It's really just a show where they show the dark matches that they had on. And then, like have a wrestler interview, and that's cool sometimes to see the wrestler interview, or sometimes like the other interviews that of people that they get on there. But I feel like a lot of the time it's like, especially seeing like, in case you missed it, like most people like especially the hardcore fans have already seen everything. So in case you missed it, should be moved to the more digital media exclusive style stuff, like that perhaps didn't get featured on TV. um like, yeah, maybe some people have seen that on Twitter or on Facebook or whatever, but like, again, maybe they haven't. So like, again, focusing things in, like trying to make the show more about things, and like start doing things on Explosion. Start, like, back in the day they started an angle and started a character change on Explosion, like with AJ Styles. Like, they've done that before, and I'm sure they could do it again. It's not hard to start things on Explosion, and it rewards the people that are actually tuning in to watch it. I haven't really watched it a whole lot recently because it's just like, well, what's the point? Like, type thing. It's like, it's either just the dark matches that don't really matter because it's like whoever versus a jobber, random jobber, or local jobber, and that sort of thing, which is just like meh. There's no real interest there. Like, if you're super interested, yeah, sure, whatever. But again, that sort of stuff, like, again, even like some of the matches that they had here and there on TV, it's like, why is this on TV? This should just be on Explosion because this isn't worth being on TV. Like, just these squash matches, yeah, sure, they're only a few minutes long or whatever else it is. Unless you're actually got a run in or something like that happening, it's like, well, why is this on TV? Like, you need more than just to have a squash match. Like, that's not something that the general like, generally the public that are in the arena, yes, they're gonna see it, but the public, when you're broadcasting this, don't need to see that unless they're a really hardcore fan and went out of their way to see it. On Explosion, I think it's fine, but I don't love it. But again, like, you could do so much more. And that sort of thing. Again, and it always seems to serve the same purpose of when somebody's going to go into a match or whatever else it is, and they're going to lose, hey, here they get a win against some random jobber. It's like Steve Macklin lost a match there or whatever it was a few weeks ago, and it was like, oh, okay, cool. It's like, yeah. And definitely that jobber match helps out. It's really weird because, especially, it's recorded before, but sometimes it's broadcast after, and that sort of thing. So, but they do try to save a lot of this stuff for the bigger shows or whatever else it is as well. But you can tell who's going to lose a lot of the time by just saying, oh, they're having a match on Explosion against some random jobber, effectively, or some no-name person. Okay, well, we know they're losing then. Very easy to tell because you've telegraphed it. So that sort of thing is like, yes, getting wins on Explosion might not be bad, but it's like, when it's like, oh yes, some person that's not a, permanent member of the roster and has never won a match and isn't going to be on next week, it's like, wow. So they're having a jobber match just to pick up that win so that when they lose, it sort of softens the blow, sort of thing. But it doesn't really, because most people, again, don't see that stuff. So, yeah, and again, working some of these things into, like, the ongoing story. Have more stuff happen on Explosion. Have more run-ins. Have more face-offs. Have more promos. Have more little things. Have a bit more of everything kind of on Explosion so that it feels like a full show. Not just, here's one random match. Here's a whole bunch of like stuff. Like I like the top five thing, trending topics. That's kind of cool to see what was like made big waves on social media. But do we really need it? I don't know. It's kind of cool to see, like in some ways, especially when the pay-per-views have been on, and that sort of thing, and what to get hyped for, and what people are the most hyped for. In some ways, that's kind of cool. Um, yeah, but yeah, again, it's one of those things. It's like I feel like a show that like I think again already WWE is kind of like sometimes it's leading the charge, and I think that is because it is the industry leader in many ways. But again, like TNA has done similar things like this. They've done not boot camp. What's it called? Um, Not tough enough. What was their version of like the power plant or tough enough? I can't remember what it was actually called. Um, they already did one. They've already done it like years and years and years ago. Um, but yeah, that sort of thing, and just broadcast it. You can decide not to broadcast it if you really want. And I love the immersed stuff. That's really cool. Um, when you get to see it, like, and just do more. Like, do more things like that. Like, even if you're not gonna um sort of showcase that, it's like, well, why not? Like, what's the difference? Like, you might as well, you know, because that is, kind of what you're in the business of at the end of the day, making content so that people will, pay to watch. You've got to offer people something to get that $9.95 or whatever it is per month or whatever, plus them buying the major pay-per-views every month or every 4 months or whatever it is. Like, so yeah, there's got to be something out there for people to feel like, yes, I'm getting my money's worth here. And like certain matches like that are upcoming, like that I thought of, one of them is Wesley versus Laredo Kid on TV, and I know this sort of doesn't fit, but this is a jobber match, between Wes and Laredo. Laredo's the jobber. So obviously, like I think we talked about this a little bit before, but obviously there's going to be a run-in from the Rascals to continue this feud that they've got going on. And it's crazy, in some ways, because it's like, bro, like this is the final standoff, I guess. But again, it's like I'll be glad to see the tail end of it in many ways, because it really has dragged on a fair bit, you know, since it started. So, but yeah, mostly that could have been relegated to Explosion, because like the outcome, everyone knows the outcome, and basically everyone knows what is going to happen, in that. And does it really need to be broadcast? This feud, this rivalry has already gotten a lot of airtime. So it's like, yes, perhaps you've already done stuff to get it to the next point or whatever it is. Maybe you're going to add a stipulation. I don't know, maybe, whatever. But still, like, eh. So what? Like, again, you could put that sort of stuff out there on Explosion and make Explosion more of a show that people want to see, or more of a show that people feel like, man, maybe I should watch that because more is happening over there, not just, like random jobber matches. Even though this is a random jobber match, at least like oh well, they revealed a stipulation there, and they started a story, or they continued a part of a story there, because that's one of the biggest problems. It feels like the things that happen on that show really do not affect, what's happening on the main show that much. So if you had a number one contenders match of some sort on Explosion, like that should probably be on the main show. But like, maybe that sort of thing could be, you could start to say, okay, again, let's put that on here, or like do more stuff with the guys that don't get enough TV time, as I say. Or again, like, let's find a show that, brings on some of the legends, and some of the backstage segments of people saying, you did really well there. You did, like, or, I'd like to see you do more of this or do more of that, or, like, you need to work on this, or, like, you know, that kind of stuff, just even that, like, I think some people would be interested in seeing that. And I know some of that can break the kayfabe of things, but again, like, like most of the fans that are watching are clued in anyway, so it's like, well, what's the difference to an extent, so that's where I'm at with that. Tell me what you guys think. Hope you guys have enjoyed this one, and hope you guys will join me again in another one.